Alright, I think that's been enough time. Hello, everyone, and good evening. Gonna eat the stream, huh? Hello, Solar and Lychee and Milo. Good to see you all. Oh no. I see the licking emotes already begin. How is everyone doing tonight? What's going on? Anything fun happen? Oh wait, that's great. Just stopping by to say hi, but you're not staying tonight. That's alright, Milo. You take care of whatever you need to do, and I hope you rest easy. And that you have a great rest of your day. What'd you walk in on? Hello, Jam Jam. Everyone's just saying hello. Have a good stream? Definitely will. Thank you, Milo. Well, you saw licking there. That sort of always happens non-stop. Hello, Natalia. Welcome in. Good to see you. That's a cute little thing you got there. That one is completely fair, Solar. For context, I've been playing a Minecraft mod pack with Solar Yaki there. So that is fun. However, a tragedy did occur as Solar attempted to save an iron golem in a wall before hitting the waystone. And it was a very, very long journey for her. Isn't that the name of the girl from Percy Jackson? No? I never saw the movies or read the books, so I could not say. Yeah, I lost 30 Minecraft levels, which, if anyone knows, that takes a good while to get to. But anyways, hello everyone. Hope you're all doing well tonight. Feel free to settle in, relax, and we'll go ahead and get ready for what we have planned for today. And what do we have planned for today? Well, you see, it's reading time. And I think I'm going to start, of course, with the first book in my favorite series, The Pawn of Prophecy by David Eddings of the Belgariad series. And of course, the last we left off was Chapter 9. Yes, Jam Jam, what's up? What's going on? Did you get a cookie? Aw. Thank you, Jam Jam. Now be good and settle in. It's story time. Here we go with Chapter 9. The almost 2 weeks it took them to reach Muros were the most uncomfortable Garion had ever spent. Their route skirted the edge of the foothills through rolling and sparsely settled country, and the sky hung gray and cold overhead. There were occasional spits of snow, and the mountains loomed black against the skyline to the east. It seemed to Garion that he would never be warm again. Despite Dernick's best efforts to find dry firewood each night, their fires always seemed pitifully small, and the great cold around them enormously large. The ground upon which they slept was always frozen, and the chill seemed actually to seep into Garion's bones. His education in the Dresden secret language continued, and he became, if not adept, at least competent by the time they passed Lake Kamar and began the long downhill grade that led to Muros. The city of Muros, in south central Sandaria, was a sprawling, unattractive place that had been since time immemorial the site of a great annual fair. Each year in late summer, Algar horsemen drove vast cattle herds through the mountains along the Great North Road to Muros, where cattle buyers from all over the west gathered to await their coming. Huge sums changed hands, and because the Algar clansmen also commonly made their yearly purchases of useful and ornamental articles at that time, merchants from as far away as Nyissa in the remote south gathered to offer their wares. A large plain which lay over to the east of the city was given over entirely to the cattle pens that stretched for miles, but were still inadequate to contain the herds which arrived at the height of the season. Beyond the pens to the east lay the more or less permanent encampment of the Algars. It was to the city one mid-morning, at the tag end of the fair, when the cattle pens were nearly empty and most of the Algars had departed, and only the most desperate merchants remained, that Silk led the 3 wagons laden with hams of Mingan, the Tolnedran. The delivery of the hams took place without incident, and the wagon soon drew into an inn-yard near the northern outskirts of the city. "This is a respectable inn, great lady," Silk assured Aunt Pole as he helped her down from the wagon. "I've stopped here before." "Let's hope so," she said. "The inns of Muros have an unsavory reputation." "Those particular inns lie along the eastern edge of town," Silk assured her delicately. "I know them quite well." "I'm certain you do," she said with an arched eyebrow. "My profession sometimes requires me to seek out places I might otherwise prefer to avoid," he said blandly. The inn, Garion noted, was surprisingly clean, and its guests seemed for the most part to be Sendarian merchants. "I thought there'd be many different kinds of people here in Muros," he said, as he and Silk carried their bundles up to the chambers on the second floor. Alright, got to the end of that paragraph. How old am I, Natalia? Oh my. We're going to start off with that one, huh? Old enough, old enough. You know what? I'm curious. Judging by the voice alone, what's your guess? We'll make it a little game, too. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5 million years old? Ancient. What? Jam, that one feels a little unrelated. 329,542. Hot damn. Hi, Cor. What's up? Long time no see. How have you been? Cass is definitely 23. Damn. I remember those days. Yes, oldly. Jam thinks 30 or maybe 25. Interesting guesses. Interesting guesses. Well, one of you is definitely close. One of you is definitely wrong. Hi, Kate. Great to see you. Grandpa status. A deep voice like that looks like a 30-year-old. 36. Well, you would be correct for those of you that said I am in my 30s. However, my voice has been like this since 22? So, yeah. Now you know. Not specifically, but now you know. Back in my day. Uncle Cass. I've been an uncle since I was like 16. My nephew was born to a cousin. Very sweet boy. No, I think it was actually 14. I was young. Teenage, though. What's your prize? Your prize is... Good job, Jam Jam. 36? No. Alright, well, that was a fun little diversion. Hope you all had fun with that one. You had young uncles too? And you have a 3-year age gap with your nephew? 37. You guys are going too high. Can you get Jack Jack? No. $34? Not yet. Not yet. 33? You're just counting down. Oh, you're all so silly. Worth a shot? Alright, we're going back to the book now, everyone. You said every number. Oh. Are you close? No. I mean, technically yes, but also no. Someone said the right number. But I won't say who. Ooh. There are, Silk said, but each group tends to remain aloof from the others. Peepaw, how dare you? The Tolmedrons gather in one part of town, the Drasnians in another, the Neosins in yet another. You keep this up, I'm turning the nice voice filter off and we're getting normal me. Oh, you're all silly. Ah, Kate, that's right. So... Alright, well... Thank you, everyone. I just don't think it's ASMR appropriate. Goodness gracious, you guys. But, alright. We are starting off with the Pawn of Prophecy, and we are in Chapter 9. The adventurers have just made it into the town of Muros, which is full of cows. I love cows. Oh, all of you guys. Yeah, so let's go ahead and continue on. There are, Silk said, but each group tends to remain aloof from the others. The Tolmedrons gather in one part of town, the Drasnians in another, the Neosins in yet another. The Earl of Muros prefers it that way. Can't be crushing on your grandpa now. That is pretty kid-core of you. Anyways, tempers sometimes flare in the heat of the day's business, and it's best not to have natural enemies housed under the same roof. Garion nodded. You know, he said as they entered the chambers they had taken for their stay in Muros. I don't think I've ever seen a Nielsen. Galaxy Mushroom, hello. Welcome in. How are you doing? What's going on tonight? You're lucky, Silk said with distaste. They're an unpleasant race. Are they like Murgos? No, Silk said. The Neasians worship Isa, the snake god, and it's considered seemly among them to adopt the mannerisms of the serpent. I don't find it all that attractive myself. Besides, the Neasians murdered the Riven King, and all Alorans have disliked them since then. I love when Twitch chat goes and talks over to YouTube chat. It's great. Looking into new channels to watch and stumbled in here, love it so far? That's very sweet of you. Thank you, Galaxy Mushroom. I definitely hope you enjoy your stay. Everyone here has been incredibly sweet and fun, and it's been an awesome time. That's for sure. And all Alorans have disliked them since then. The Rivens don't have a king, Garion objected. Not anymore, Silk said. They did once, though, until Queen Salmisra decided to have him murdered. Need therapy, you fell in love with the voice. Which one, Natalia? Surely you can't mean mine. This whole thing? I'm kidding. Please, I'm just joking. Man, I need to get that lurk command working. But hope you rest easy, Lychee. When was that? Garion asked. Fascinated. Talk like I'm 60. You guys make it so hard to read. That's alright though. I appreciate the challenge. We love the peepaw voice. Voices are just so... So then just imagine if I got a little bit closer, right over here. Or maybe over here. Anyways, hi. I mean, this is an ASMR channel after all. I have power. Do not tempt me to use it. What the... Sorry, everybody. It's been a day. Merry Christmas. No one said it was the freaky ASMR channel. That's not freaky. You said you don't mind. We'll save it. I have been working on proper videos using actual ASMR. El Torito, you do like the VTuber model? Thank you very much. I mean like the lewd ones that do deep voices? Yeah, I know the kind. And hey, thank you for following on Twitch as well, El Torito. We're all degenerates. Well, nothing wrong with that, as long as everyone enjoys in a nice, safe way. And now, back to the book. The Rivens don't have a king, Garion objected. Not anymore, Silk said. They did once, though, until Queen Salmisra decided to have him murdered. When was that? Garion asked, fascinated. 1,300 years ago, Silk said, as if it had only been yesterday. Isn't that sort of a long time to hold a grudge? Garion asked. Some things are unforgivable, Silk said shortly. Since there was still a good part of the day left, Silk and Wolf left the inn that afternoon to search the street of Muros for those strange lingering traces that Wolf could apparently see or feel, and which would tell him whether the object they sought had passed this way. Garion sat near the fire in the chamber he shared with Aunt Pole, trying to bake the chill out of his feet. Aunt Pole also sat by the fire, mending one of his tunics, her shining needle flickering in and out of the fabric. Who was the Riven King, Aunt Pole? He asked her. She stopped sewing. Why do you ask? She said. Silk was telling me about Niesens, he said. He told me that their queen murdered the Riven King. Why would she do that? You are full of questions today, aren't you? She asked, her needle moving again. Silk and I talk about a lot of things as we ride along, Garion said, pushing his feet even closer to the fire. Don't burn your shoes, she told him. Silk says that I'm not a Centaur, Garion said. He says that he doesn't know what I am, but that I'm not a Centaur. Silk talks too much, Aunt Pole observed. Oh, you're trying to ask earlier, did I fix the delay because YouTube chat looks like it's going faster? I did hit the silly button. So, now the delay is not quite that bad anymore. Isn't that right, YouTube chat? Hi. Hello. Sorry. Silk talks too much, Aunt Pole observed. You never tell me anything, Aunt Pole, he said in irritation. I tell you everything you need to know, she said calmly. You're welcome. Right now, it's not necessary for you to know anything about Riven Kings or Niesen Queens. All you want to do is keep me an ignorant child, Garion said petulantly. I'm almost a man, and I don't even know what I am, or who. I know who you are, she said, not looking up. Who am I then? You're a young man who's about to catch his shoes on fire, she said. He jerked his feet back quickly. You didn't answer me, he accused. That's right, she said in that infuriatingly calm voice. Why not? It's not necessary for you to know yet. When it's time, I'll tell you, but not until. That's not fair, he objected. The world's full of injustice, she said. Now, since you're feeling so manly, why don't you fetch some more firewood? That'll give you something useful to think about. He glared at her and stamped across the room. Garion, she said. What? Don't even think about slamming the door. We've all had those moments of such intense anger and frustration. And they know, sometimes I feel manly myself. You ever lift something up? Mm-hmm. I've had good practice with the annoyed whats. Yeah, hay bales, dang. That's pretty strong. That evening, when Wolf and Silk returned, the usually cheerful old man seemed impatient and irritable. No need to worry about that. I don't normally actually get mad at all. Irritated maybe, but never really mad. I have a high patience and usually just find things interesting, silly, or kind of funny. I can get grumpy though, which does not help the old man allegations. You don't understand English very well, but you try a little to understand? There were some parts that I said that you didn't understand. What parts were those, Natalia? If you don't mind me asking. Maybe I can try to explain it a bit better. It's always good to try to be better. Every day. Some good self-improvement. At least I try anyways. Your patience runs thin? That's understandable. It's like, listen, sometimes irritations in life do happen. It's just a part of life, but the moment will always pass, and it's always going to get better. It might not seem like it at the moment, but sometimes the thought helps after the initial irritation. That evening, when Wolf and Silk returned, the usually cheerful old man seemed impatient and irritable. You've never seen me hyper as far as you've been here? Not really hyper per se. But, I mean, it can happen though. I just haven't really played a super excitable game. Not for here anyways. You're trying, and that's the important thing, Core. I'm proud of you. Of you and your incredible arts. Just look at those emotes we have. Done by Core herself. He sat down at the table in the common room of the inn and stared moodily at the fire. I don't think it's past this way, he said finally. There are a few places left to try, but I'm almost certain that it hasn't been here. You're welcome, Core. Then we go on to Kamar, Barak rumbled, his thick fingers combing his bristling beard. We must, Wolf said. Most likely, we should have gone there first. There was no way to know, Antpol told him. Why would he go to Kamar if he's trying to carry it to the Angarak kingdoms? I can't even be certain where he's going, Wolf said irritably. Maybe he wants to keep the thing for himself. He's always coveted it. He stared into the fire again. We're going to need some kind of freight for the trip to Kamar, Silk said. Wolf shook his head. It slows us too much, he said. It's not unusual for wagons to return to Kamar from Muros without freight, and it's reaching the point we'll have to gamble our disguise for the sake of speed. As for hype games should play Finding Frankie, I've never heard of that actually. What is that game? It's 40 leagues to Kamar, and the weather's turning bad. A heavy snowstorm could stop the wagons entirely, and I don't have time to spend the whole winter mired down in a snowbank. Vernick dropped his knife suddenly and started to scramble to his feet. What's amiss? Barak asked quickly. We just saw Brill, Vernick said. He was in that doorway. It's like as if Fall Guys Poppy Playtime had a baby? Huh. That's interesting. Horror parkour. I think I saw a thumbnail about that lately. So that's interesting. I should be okay. I remember I used to be quite cracked at Fall Guys. I just saw Brill, Dernick said. He was in that doorway. Are you sure? Wolf demanded. I'll do great then? Yeah. I know him, Dernick said grimly. It was Brill, all right. Silk pounded his fist down on the table. Idiot, he accused himself. I underestimated the man. That doesn't matter now, Mr. Wolf said. There was almost a kind of relief in his voice. Our disguise is useless now. I think it's time for speed. Got lost in time with the voice. Has it only been a week, or? Since we met Kate? It feels like it's been longer. I think it's time for speed. I'll see to the wagons, Dernick said. No, Wolf said. The wagons are too slow. We'll go to the camp of the Algars and buy good horses. He stood up quickly. What of the wagons? Dernick persisted. Forget them, Wolf said. They're only a hindrance now. We'll ride the wagon horses to the camp of the Algars and take only what we can conveniently carry. Let's get ready to leave immediately. Meet me in the inn yard as soon as you can. Feels like a month, I agree with that. As I feel like Kate was around as we were reading Lord of the Rings. And that was a while ago. At least 2-3 weeks? At the very least. You just followed maybe like 5 minutes ago and now you're stuck here? Well, it's definitely great to have you, Mushroom. Welcome to the crew. That's a very cute little emo, Natalia. I like that. They're only a hindrance now. We'll ride the wagon horses to the camp of the Algars and take only what we can conveniently carry. Let's get ready to leave immediately. Meet me in the inn yard as soon as you can. Giggling, kicking your feet right now? That's adorable. He went on quickly to the door and out into the cold night. It was only a few minutes later that they all met near the door to the stable in the cobblestone inn yard, each carrying a small bundle. Hulking Barak jingled as he walked, and Garion could smell the oiled steel of his mail shirt. A few flakes of snow drifted down the frosty air and settled like tiny feathers to the frozen ground. By the way, I've also got a cute chihuahua. That's true. You have a homie Cypher and epic brain rot. Someday I'll get to those. I know that someone has been suggesting that for stream, I start to play a certain game called Love in Deep Space. So that might be funny. Yeah, we have a few people here that love Homie Cypher. That it was Solar, I think she did, and there were a few others as well. Well, glad to see everyone is excited for that. Alright, well, we definitely have that pinned down for 2025 then. I guess we'll get to it next year. Joke is, it's almost next year. Seen the game once, we get fold. Interesting. Nothing wrong with that. Himbo joke. Love in Deep Space in January. You want it that soon? We have so many projects on the table already. I have to finish Born of Bread, Celeste, get through the Odyssey, the Pot of Prophecy. Actually, we're almost halfway through this book. So we are getting there. We should wait, yeah, for February. Actually, February might be rough. That's perfect? Alright, we'll try it then. And now... Oh, why? One of my best friends, IRL. Turns out he's actually getting married in February. I just got the wedding invite this morning. So, that's gonna be really cool. Very excited and happy for him. And of course, I gotta go. Yeah. Funny story about that. I actually got my first COVID shot. I got the first COVID shot specifically because he was going to propose to his girlfriend at Disneyland. So of course, you know, if we're going to be traveling and going to a theme park during COVID times, gotta have the vaccine. You have nothing else to say or ask? That's perfectly fine, Natalia. You just rest easy and try to listen along as best you can. I'm here for you if you need me. Yeah, definitely exciting. But you know, in the end, my best friend did not propose at Disneyland, but we had a good time. But I gotta say, that vaccine murdered me. Literally, it was get shot, get in car, we go to Disneyland, and hopefully all the painkillers I brought help me survive. I went through about half the day before I walked back to the hotel and just passed out for the rest of the day with full, fever COVID symptoms. It sucked. I was fine the next day, though, which was good, because then we could spend it with everybody together. It was a good trip all around. I love traveling. Yeah. You're 23 and you still can't look at needles when getting shots? I mean, that's perfectly fair. No, but I don't know anybody that really likes needles. You hope the wedding goes well? Yeah, I'm sure it'll be great. You want to go? You've never been to Disneyland? Well, that'll be something to work towards then. It was definitely very magical all the times I've been. I've always enjoyed the vibes of being there, the rides, the ambience, the excited energy. It feels wonderful to just be there. I also don't like traveling and you're afraid of getting sick. It's happened before. Same. You want a cookie? Here's a cookie. I mean, I do love traveling, but I mainly traveled a lot pre-COVID and a bit during COVID because I had to take care of my grandmother then. There was one time, though, I traveled across... Hello, Nadine. Welcome in, and thank you for subscribing. No worries, your English so far is perfectly fine. I hope you enjoy your night and stay. Yeah, traveled across the entirety of the United States in order to see my sister and take care of all of her pets. Turns out, though, I got COVID on the flight. So I go and meet my sister, get all prepped up, and then, as soon as she left, I got hit by like the worst symptoms. And all of her dogs were big too. It was rough. 23? And you're 14, Natalia? Wow. And that's why we keep things we keep things nice and family friendly. You're almost an adult? Oh hey. I want to say welcome, but you're new to learning English, so you're sorry if you don't understand what we're saying sometimes. That's perfectly fine, Nadine. If you need any clarifications, just feel free to ask, okay? No worries. We'll accommodate. That was a fun little side diversion talking about trips and COVID and all the fun, exciting things happening next year. I just realized March is Xenoblade Chronicles X. Excited. But now, let us return to the book, which for those of you that are new... Oh, just one more question. Okay, what's up? What's up? How can I help you? What's up, Core? When am I gonna bust out the other microphone? You know, I think we can probably do that tonight. For a little while anyways. A few hours after reading. Can I speak? Hello, semuanya. Hello, semuanya. It means hello everyone in Indonesian. Is that how you pronounce that? Yeah, I mean the microphone's always plugged in and right there. Got plenty of energy. I haven't been working for the past 3 days, so that's been lovely. And again, it is ASMR. So, we can definitely do that. A pog. And now, back to the book. We're off for the holidays and it's so nice. I had to use my PTO in order to get just a few days, because they only give us one. Christmas Day, that's it. And I've been very, very tired. What can you do? Alright. My words and pronunciation was good? That's great to hear. Thank you, Nadine. Oh no? I mean, hey, you earn them, you use them. Shout out PTO, heck yeah. Still a scam though? Oh yeah, no. It's rough. Oh well. We're here to escape from reality, to enjoy a beautiful, beautiful story. Thank you for taking the time to read to us. You're very welcome, Mushroom. It's always a pleasure to read. We do not give out enough? Alright. Book time. After this, gonna stay up and watch Castlevania for hours again? Good choice, Kate. Dernick was the last to join them. He came breathlessly out of the inn and pressed a small handful of coins upon Mr. Wolf. "It's the best I could do," he apologized. "It's scarce half the worth of the wagons, but the innkeeper sensed my haste and bargained meanly." He shrugged then. "At least we're rid of them," he said. "It's not good to leave things of value behind. They nag at the mind and distract one from the business at hand." Silk laughed. "Dernick," he said, "you're the absolute soul of a Cendar." "One must follow one's nature," Dernick said. "By the way, my character's the same as the one next door. The two of us are like twins. Let me guess. Does he have the blue hair?" Like the light blue kind of turquoise hair. There are quite a few of us around. "One must follow one's nature," Dernick said. "Thank you, my friend," Wolf said gravely, dropping the coins in his purse. "Let's lead the horses," he went on. "Galloping through these narrow streets at night would only attract attention. Long lost twin." It would be funny. Now, only different in the hair. I mean, I have some other customizations going on too. Like, I have one less tassel. My hair thing is green behind my ear. My eyes are a different shade. That is it, though. The rest of the outfit definitely is default. Not much I could really do about that. Someday, as we expand, get older, as we expand and acquire more funds, I will invest in my own proper model to stick out and be me, Cassian Radley. One day, someday. Galloping through these narrow streets at night would only attract attention. "I'll lead," Barak announced, drawing his sword. "If there's any trouble, I'm best equipped to deal with it." "I'll walk alongside you, friend Barak," Dernick said, hefting a stout cudgel of firewood. "You feel it'll be sooner than later?" "Maybe." I mean, one can hope. But I don't know what the future has in store. All I know is that I'll be here. What content do I like to stream the most? ASMR or gaming? And how long have I been streaming on YouTube? Let's see. So I have been streaming on YouTube for about 2-3 months now. Like since the ends of October, I think. And mostly it's been ASMR because it's been mostly ASMR because 1, I like to read, 2, nice microphone, and sometimes I go a little nuts when I'm playing games. It's a different vibe and energy. What am I holding? I'm holding a pipe. A nice, lovely, relaxing pipe. I can move it up and bring it back down. Down and up. Show the shoulders. I suppose we do have new people. All the fun things that this model can do. We can take off the nice blue sash, put it back on. I do like the contrast with the the blue and the black. That was a trap, I see. And we have some emotes I can use when appropriate. Oh yeah, I like to use the glasses and the pipe while reading for that more distinguished sort of look. My favorite game of all time or just currently? And you're currently playing the Final Fantasy remake? Nice. I enjoyed that a whole lot when it first came out. Played that day one. But as for my favorite game in general, I would still say my favorite game is a little PlayStation 1 classic called Brave Fencer Musashi. It's actually the game that got me wanting to start voice acting as well. When I finally found out, wait a second, people are making these voices, I want to do that. And it also kind of changed how I talk a little bit too. But it's a very fun little action RPG platformer. You think you have to go now? Alright, Nadine. Have a good night and thank you for coming by. Hope to see you again soon. My Wi-Fi lagged. Did you show a shoulder yet? Yes, I did. But Brave Fencer Musashi basically follows the legendary Brave Fencer Musashi who gets summoned into another world, into the all-you-can-eat kingdom currently being besieged by the Thirst Quencher Empire. And so Musashi has to show it again. Oh, you guys. So he must collect the 5 scrolls using the legendary sword Lumina, bring peace back to the land, and seal the Wizard of Darkness. Oh my. Look at that exposed shoulder. I have a sword too. You give me more fan art. You're all so silly. Shoulders. Oh, you guys are wonderful. Yummers. Welcome back, Jam Jam. You've been needing a muse? That's actually that means a lot. Actually, that's sweet of you. But all right, now that you've had your fill, let's go ahead and get back to the book. I'll walk alongside you, friend Barak, Durnik said, hefting a stout cudgel of firewood. Barak nodded, his eyes grimly bright, and led his horse out through the gate with Durnik closely at his side. You already have a model, but the muse would be nice for you too. Well, I'm here when you need me. You'll be good? Thank you. Anyways, not reading that one. Taking his lead from Durnik, Garion paused momentarily as he passed the wood pile and selected a good oak stick. It had a comforting weight, and he swung it a few times to get the feel of it. Then he saw Aunt Pole watching him, and he hurried on without any further display. The streets through which they passed were narrow and dark, and the snow had begun to fall a bit more heavily now, settling almost lazily through the dead, calm air. The horses, made skittish by the snow, seemed to be fearful and crowded close to those who led them. When the attack came, it was unexpected and swift. There was a sudden rush of footsteps and a sharp ring of steel on steel as Barak fended off the first blow of his sword. You're going to sleep now? Sounds good, Natalia. Buenas noches y que descanses. Sometimes older people are just better, more mature. Valid and true. Arian could only see shadowy figures outlined against the falling snow. And then, as once before when in his boyhood he had struck down his friend Runderig in a mock battle, his ears began to ring. His blood surged boilingly in his veins as he leaped into the fight, ignoring the single cry from Aunt Pole. He received a smart rap on the shoulder, whirled and struck with his stick. He was rewarded with a muffled grunt. He struck again, and then again, swinging his club at those parts of his shadowy enemy which he instinctively knew were the most sensitive. Your action. Oh, that's wild, Mushroom. That's great, though. Good for you. Don't let anyone tell you what you can or can't like. The main fight, however, surged around Barak and Dernick. The ring of Barak's sword and the thump of Dernick's cudgel resounded in the narrow street along with the groans of their assailants. Thank you, Kate. There's the boy, a voice rang out from behind them, and Garion whirled. Two men were running down the street toward him, one with a sword and the other with a wicked-looking curved knife. Knowing it was hopeless, Garion raised his club, but Silk was there. The small man launched himself from the shadows directly at the feet of the two, and all three crashed to the street in a tangle of arms and legs. Silk rolled to his feet like a cat, spun, and kicked one of the floundering men solidly just below the ear. The man sank twitching to the cobblestones. The other scrambled away and half rose just in time to receive both of Silk's heels in his face as the rat-faced Drasnian leaped into the air, twisted and struck with both legs. Then Silk turned almost casually. We love dusty enemy men who are ancient. Specifically this one. Are you all right? He asked Garion. I'm fine, Garion said. You're awfully good at this kind of thing. I'm an acrobat, Silk said. It's simple once you know how. They're getting away, Garion told him. Silk turned, but the two he had just put down were dragging themselves into a dark alley. There was a triumphant shout from Barak, and Garion saw that the rest of the attackers were fleeing. At the end of the street, in the snow-speckled light from a small window, was Brill, almost dancing with fury. Ah. Welcome in, Kongchindo. Hopefully you're having a good night. Thanks for liking and subscribing. Appreciate it. Cowards, he shouted at his hirelings. Cowards. And then Barak started for him, and he too turned and ran. Are you all right, Aunt Pole? Garion said, crossing the street to where she stood. Of course I am, she snapped. And don't do that again, young man. Leave street brawling to those better suited for it. I was all right, he objected. I had my stick here. Don't argue with me, she said. I didn't go to all the trouble of raising you to have you end up dead in a gutter. What's my favorite book? So my favorite book series is the one we're reading right now called The Belgariad, which covers 5 books. Then has a sequel series called The Malorian, which is 5 more books. Then 2 more companion books after that. Which, I love the whole series, it's my favorite. But my favorite singular book is World War Z. It's a good one. Is everyone alright? Dernick asked anxiously, coming back to them. Of course we are, Antipole snapped peevishly. Why don't you see if you can help the old wolf with the horses? Nerd stuff, you adore it. You want to read Song of Achilles? That sounds nice. We'll see if I can give that a try. World War Z. A fantastic book unfortunately butchered by Hollywood. Let me tell you, that movie adaptation is awful. Gosh, they ruined everything that was good about the book. I will be reading it, of course, but I want to save that for a more spooky time. After all, it is about the great zombie war that took over the whole world. Movie adaptations. Kill you. Valid. Completely true. Sonic's doing good, though. We can be proud of our little blue blur. Those chili dogs never seemed so good. Yeah, I'll probably play through all the Sonic games on here as well. Hopefully by then, my PlayStation 3 will be fixed, and then I can play Sonic Unleashed and Sonic 06 for the very first time. I'm gonna suffer. At least with 06. But I'll do it. For the content. And make it a subathon. You remember playing Sonic 2 on your DS? Nice. You were such a badass? Oh yeah. Carrying that thing around with the power of Sonic in your pockets? Man, the DS was such a great handheld. I do miss it. The only DS game you remember playing is one of the Spyro games? Ah, that's interesting. I think the games I enjoyed the most on the DS... Let's see, I definitely enjoyed all the Pokemon games, because they were good back then. I had a little Chocobo Final Fantasy game that was cute. What else did I play? The World Ends With You. That's my favorite. That's my favorite DS game. Be right back? Sounds good. Cooking Mama? Ooh. That's the good stuff. Alright. Back to the book. Why don't you see if you can help the old wolf with the horses? Certainly, Mistress Pole, Dernick said mildly. A splendid little fight, Varak said, wiping his sword as he joined them. Not much blood, but satisfying all the same. I'm delighted you found it so, Antipole said acidly. I don't much care for such encounters. Did they leave anyone behind? All these talks about games now and you wish Xbox wasn't broke. So you could finish Devil May Cry 4. Ah, that hurts. Ooh, we unlocked a nice memory. There we go. Just remember, the power is yet unknown. Regrettably no, dear lady, Barak said. The quarters were too narrow for good strokes, and these stones too slippery for good footing. I marked a couple of them quite well, however. We managed to break a few bones and dent a head or two. As a group, they were much better at running than fighting. Silk came back from the alley where he had pursued the two who had tried to attack Garion. His eyes were bright, and his grin was vicious. Invigorating, he said, and then laughed for no apparent reason. Wolf and Dernick had managed to calm their wild-eyed horses and led them back to where Garion and the others stood. Is anyone hurt? Wolf demanded. We're all intact, Barak rumbled. The business was hardly worth drawing a sword for. Garion's mind was racing. In his excitement, he spoke without stopping to consider the fact that it might be wiser to think the whole thing through first. How did Brill know we were in Muros? He asked. Silk looked at him sharply, his eyes narrowing. Perhaps he followed us from Winold, he said. But we stopped and looked back, Garion said. He wasn't following when we left, and we've kept a watch behind us every day. Silk frowned. Go on, Garion, he said. Penantang moderator, congratulations, I hit 101 subscribers. I'm surprised at how much YouTube has grown, honestly. Thank you for pointing that out. Wow. Goodness gracious. You're right, 101 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you so much. I just hope everyone enjoys what we're doing here. With all the silly and fun times. Happy? Yeah. That's exciting. That's awesome. I'm gonna be honest, I did not expect YouTube to pop off as much as it did. But so far it's been going fantastic. And I have all of you to thank for that. Thank you so much, everyone on YouTube. I hope you enjoy. We're going to keep things going. And Twitch, thank you guys as well. You're the start here. Remember the day you first arrived and were trying to steal the candy bowl? Me too. Me too. Wow. That's incredible. Man, you're hungry? That's fair, Big Smoke. Thank you, Galaxy Mushroom. It feels good. Food's good. And for me, though, I'm going back to reading the book. Thank you, everyone, for the congratulations. Wow. I'm gonna have to do something special for you guys. That's for sure. Thank you, King. Silk looked at him sharply, his eyes narrowing. Perhaps he followed us from Winold, he said. We stopped and looked back, Garion said. He wasn't following when we left, and we've kept a watch behind us every day. Silk frowned. Go on, Garion, he said. I think he knew where we were going, Garion blurted, struggling against a strange compulsion not to speak what his mind saw clearly now. Smile. Thank you, Joker. Here's that smile. Draw for you guys. Tempting. And what else do you think? Wolf asked. Somebody told him, Garion said. Somebody who knew we were coming here. Mingan knew, Silk said, but Mingan's a merchant, and he wouldn't talk about his dealings to somebody like Brill. But Asherak the Murgo was in Mingan's counting room, and Mingan hired us. The compulsion was so strong now that Garion's tongue felt stiff. Silk shrugged. Why should it concern him? Asherak didn't know who we were. Thank you, Mr. X. Congratulations indeed. Are my fingers so long? To hold things better with. What if he did? Garion struggled. What if he isn't just an ordinary Murgo, but one of those others? Hello, Taman. Hello, Vigionta. Sounds good, Kate. See you in a bit. Like the other one, who was with those ones who passed us a couple days after we left Arene. Grolem? Silk said, and his eyes widened. Yes, I suppose that if Asherak's a Grolem, he'd have known who we are and what we're doing. Welcome back, Kor. And what if the Grolem who passed us that day was Asherak? Garion thought to say. What if he wasn't really looking for us, but just coming south to find Brill and send him here to wait for us? Silk looked very hard at Garion. Very good, he said softly. Very, very good. He glanced at Aunt Pole. My compliments, Mistress Pole. You've raised a rare boy here. What does Asherak look like? Wolf asked quickly. A Murgo, Silk shrugged. He said he was from Rekgoska. I took him to be an ordinary spy on some business that didn't concern us. My mind seems to have gone to sleep. It happens when one deals with Grolems, Wolf told him. Alright, everyone. I'm going to take a bit of a break. Gonna drink some water and get a stretch. I feel like you all should do the same too. So everyone, I'll be back in a few minutes. Okay. And I'm back. Hello, everyone. Hopefully that was a good break for you all. And again, just want to say thank you, everyone, for all the follows and subscribes that we get. It feels good. Thank you, Mushroom. Alright. So, now that we've had some time to enjoy and celebrate and stretch and drink water, here we go. Someone's watching us, Dernick said quietly, from that window up there. Arian looked up quickly and saw a dark shape at a second-story window outlined by a dim light. The shape was hauntingly familiar. Mr. Wolf did not look up, but his face turned blank, as if he were turning inward. We're still reading Pana Prophecy Jam Jam. I took a little break in between, because we've been doing a lot of yapping today. Yeah. Mr. Wolf did not look up, but his face turned blank, as if he were looking inward, or his mind were searching for something. Then he drew himself up and looked at a figure in the window, his eyes blazing. "A Grolem," he said shortly. "A dead one, perhaps," Silk said. He reached inside his tunic and drew out a long, needle-pointed dirk. He took 2 quick steps away from the house, where the Grolem stood watching, spun, and threw the dirk with a smooth overhand cast. The yapping was soothing? Yeah. I'm glad you enjoyed it. It is always fun to talk about things. That's why we're here. The dirk crashed through the window. There was a muffled shout, and the light went out. Arian felt a strange pang in his left arm. "Marked him," Silk said with a grin. "Good throw," Barak said admiringly. "One has picked up certain skills," Silk said modestly. "If it was Asherak, I owed him that for deceiving me in Mingan's counting room." "At least it'll give him something to think about," Wolf said. "There's no point in trying to creep through town now. They know we're here. Let's mount and ride." He climbed onto his horse and led the way down the street at a quick walk. The compulsion was gone now, and Garion wanted to tell them about Asherak, but there was no chance for that as they rode. Once they reached the outskirts of the city, they nudged their horses into a fast canter. The snow was falling more seriously now, and the hoof-churned ground in the vast cattle pens was already faintly dusted with white. "It's going to be a cold night," Silk shouted as they rode. "We could always go back to Muros," Barak suggested. "Another scuffle or two might warm your blood." Silk laughed and put heels to his horse again. "Master says stuff? Hey, welcome in and thank you for the follow. I hope you enjoy your stay." The encampment of the Algars was 3 leagues to the east of Muros. It was a large area surrounded by a stout palisade of poles set in the ground. The snow by now was falling thickly enough to make the camp look hazy and indistinct. The gate, flanked by hissing torches, was guarded by 2 fierce-looking warriors in leather leggings, snow-dusted jerkins of the same material, and pot-shaped steel helmets. The points of their lances glittered in the torchlight. "Halt," one of the warriors commanded, leveling his lance at Mr. Wolf. "What business have you here at this time of night?" "I have urgent need of speaking with your herdmaster," Wolf said politely. "May I step down?" The two guards spoke together briefly. "You may come down," one of them said. "Your companions, however, must withdraw somewhat, but not beyond the light." "Algars," Silk muttered under his breath. "Always suspicious." Mr. Wolf climbed down from his horse and, throwing back his hood, approached the two guards through the snow. Then, a strange thing happened. The elder of the two guards stared at Mr. Wolf, taking in his silver hair and beard. His eyes suddenly opened very wide. He quickly muttered something to his companion, and the two men bowed deeply to Mr. Wolf. "There isn't time for that," Wolf said in annoyance. "Convey me to your herdmaster." "Thank you, Cor. It's good to be back." "At once, Ancient One," the elder guard said quickly, and hurried to open the gate. "What was that about?" Garion whispered to Aunt Pole. "Algars are superstitious," she said shortly. "Don't ask so many questions." They waited with snow settling down upon them and melting on their horses. After about a half hour, the gate opened again, and 24 mounted Algars, fierce in their rivet-studded leather vests and steel helmets, herded 6 saddled horses out into the snow. Behind them, Mr. Wolf walked, accompanied by a tall man with his head shaved except for a flowing scalp lock. "You have honored our camp by your visit, Ancient One," the tall man was saying, "and I wish you all speed on your journey." "I have little fear of being delayed with Algar horses under us," Wolf replied. "My riders will accompany you along the route they know, which will put you on the far side of Muros within a few hours," the tall man said. "They will then linger for a time to be certain you are not followed." "I cannot express my gratitude, noble herdmaster," Wolf said, bowing. "It is I who am grateful for the opportunity to be of service," the herdmaster said, also bowing. The change to their new horses took only a minute, with half of their contingent of Algars leading and the other half bringing up the rear. They turned and rode back toward the west through the dark, snowy night. And that is the end of Chapter 9 of The Pawn of Prophecy. Hello there, Rex. Good to see you. Welcome in. How have you been? How's your holidays? Any sweet loot? Holidays were fun. Good to hear. You got a gaming chair and a new model? Oh wow. Damn, that's some good looting. Very exciting. I'll have to check out the new model later if you've used it already. If not, it's still something to look forward to. Oh yeah. You're so tired though? Ah, that's completely understandable. I feel that. I spent about half of today in bed. Had to be done. These holidays have been wild times. Welcome back, Kate. Good to see you. All right. I'm not really feeling the Odyssey tonight. Sorry, Jam Jam. I'm going to keep reading this book for the next chapter, and we'll see how I feel then. All right. We're going to continue with Chapter 10 of The Pawn of Prophecy. Gradually, almost imperceptibly, The darkness became paler as the softly falling snow made indistinct even the arrival of morning. Their seemingly inexhaustible horses pounded on through the growing light, the sound of their hooves muffled by the snow now lying fetlock deep on the broad surface of the Great North Road. Arian glanced back once and saw the jumbled tracks of their passage stretching behind them and, already at the hazy gray limit of his own vision, beginning to fill with concealing snow. It's fine you're reading it? Sounds good, Jam Jam. When it was fully light, Mr. Wolf reined in his steaming horse and proceeded to walk for a time. "How far have we come?" he asked Silk. The weasel-faced man, who had been shaking the snow out of the folds of his cloak, looked around, trying to pick out a landmark in the misty veil of dropping flakes. 10 leagues, he said finally. Perhaps a bit more. This is a miserable way to travel, Borak rumbled, wincing slightly as he shifted his bulk in the saddle. Think of how your horse must feel, Silk grinned at him. How far is it to Kamar? Antpole asked. 40 leagues from Muros, Silk told her. We'll need shelter then, she said. We can't gallop 40 leagues without rest, no matter who's behind us. I don't think we need to worry about pursuit just now, Wolf said. I think we can count on the Algars to detain Brill and his hirelings, or even Asherak if they try to follow us. At least there's something Algars are good for, Silk said dryly. If I remember correctly, there should be an Imperial hostel about 5 leagues farther to the west, Wolf said. We ought to reach it by noon. Will we be allowed to stay there? Gernick asked doubtfully. I've never heard that Tolnedrins are noted for hospitality. Tolnedrins sell anything for a price, Silk said. Their hostel would be a good place to stop. Even if Brill or Asherak evade the Algars and follow us there, the Legionnaires won't permit any foolishness within their walls. Why should there be Tolnedrin soldiers in Sandaria? Garion asked, feeling a brief surge of patriotic resentment at the thought. Wherever the great roads are, you'll find the legions, Silk said. Tolnedrins are even better at writing treaties than they are at giving short weight to their customers. Mr. Wolf chuckled. You're inconsistent, Silk, he said. You don't object to their highways, but you dislike their legions. You can't have one without the other. I've never pretended to be consistent, the sharp-nosed man said airily. If we want to reach the questionable comfort of the Imperial hostel by noon, hadn't we better move along? I wouldn't want to deny His Imperial Majesty the opportunity to pick my pocket. All right, Wolf said. Let's ride. And he put his heels to the flanks of the Algar horse, which had already begun to prance impatiently under him. The hostel, when they reached it in the full light of the snowy noon, proved to be a series of stout buildings surrounded by an even stouter wall. The legionnaires who manned it were not the same sort of men as the Tolnedrin merchants Garion had seen before. Unlike the oily men of commerce, these were hard-faced professional fighting men in burnished breastplates and plumed helmets. They carried themselves proudly, even arrogantly, each bearing the knowledge that the might of all Tolnedra was behind him. The food in the dining hall was plain and wholesome, but dreadfully expensive. The tiny sleeping cubicles were scrupulously clean, with hard, narrow beds and thick woolen blankets, and were also expensive. The stables were neat, and they too reached deeply into Mr. Wolf's purse. Garion wondered at the thought of how much their lodging was costing, but Wolf paid for it all with seeming indifference, as if his purse were bottomless. We'll rest here until tomorrow, the white-bearded old man announced, when they had finished eating. Maybe it'll snow itself out by morning. I'm not happy with all this plunging blindly through a snowstorm. Too many things can hide in our path in such weather. Arian, who was by now numb with exhaustion, heard these words gratefully as he half drowsed at the table. The others sat talking quietly, but he was too tired to listen to what they had to say. Arian, Aunt Pole said finally, why don't you go to bed? I'm all right, Aunt Pole, he said, rousing himself quickly, mortified once more at being treated like a child. Now, Garion, she said in that infuriating tone he knew so well. It seemed that all his life she had been saying now, Garion, to him, but he knew better than to argue. He stood up and was surprised to feel that his legs were trembling. Aunt Pole also rose and led him from the dining hall. I can find my way by myself, he objected. Of course, she said. Now, come along. After he had crawled into bed in his cubicle, she pulled his blankets up firmly around his neck. Stay covered, she told him. I don't want you taking cold. She laid her cool hand briefly on his forehead, as she had done when he was a small child. Aunt Pole? He asked drowsily. Yes, Garion? Who were my parents? I mean, what were their names? She looked at him gravely. We can talk about that later, she said. I want to know, he said stubbornly. All right. Your father's name was Garen. Your mother's was Ildera. Garion thought about that. The names don't sound Sindarian, he said finally. They're not, Aunt Pole said. Why was that? It's a very long story, she said, and you're much too tired to hear it just now. On a sudden impulse, he reached out and touched the white lock at her brow with the mark on the palm of his right hand. As had happened sometimes before, a window seemed to open in his mind at the tingling touch, but this time, that window opened on something much more serious. There was anger and a single face, a face that was strangely like Mr. Wolf's, but was not his face, and all the towering fury in the world was directed at that face. Aunt Pole moved her head away. I've asked you not to do that, Garion, he said, her tone matter of fact. You're not ready for it yet. Not her leaving him on a cliffhanger. Eventually he'll get answers, but it will take a while. You're going to have to tell me what it is someday, he said. Perhaps, she said, but not now. Close your eyes and go to sleep. And then, as if that command had somehow dissolved his will, he fell immediately into a deep, untroubled sleep. By the next morning, it had stopped snowing. The world outside the walls of the Imperial Hostel seemed mantled in thick, unbroken white, and the air was filmy with a kind of damp haze that was almost, but not quite, fog. Misty Cindaria, Silk said ironically at breakfast. Sometimes I'm amazed that the entire kingdom doesn't rush shut. They traveled all that day at a mile-eating canter, and that night there was another Imperial hostel, almost identical to the one that they had left that morning. So closely identical, in fact, that it almost seemed to Garion that they had ridden all day and merely arrived back where they had started. He commented on that to Silk as they were putting their horses in the stable. Tolmedrins are nothing if not predictable, Silk said. All their hostels are exactly the same. You can find these same buildings in Drasnia, Algaria, Arendia, and any place else their great roads go. It's their one weakness, this lack of imagination. Don't they get tired of doing the same thing over and over again? It makes them feel comfortable, I guess, Silk laughed. Let's go see about supper. It snowed again the following day, but by noon, Garion caught a scent other than that faintly dusty odor snows always seemed to have. Even as he had done when they had approached Arene, he began to smell the sea, and he knew their journey was almost at an end. Hamar, the largest building in Sindaria and the major seaport of the north, was a sprawling place which had existed at the mouth of the greater Kamar River since antiquity. It was the natural western terminus of the Great North Road, which stretched to Bakhtor and Dresnia, and the equally natural northern end of the West Great Road, which reached down across Serendia into Tolnedra and the imperial capital at Tol Honeth. With some accuracy, it could be said that all roads ended at Kamar. Late on, a chill, snowy afternoon, they rode down a gradual hill toward the city. Some distance from the gate, Aunt Pole stopped her horse. "Since we're no longer posing as vagabonds," she announced, "I see no further need for selecting the most disreputable inns. Do you?" "I hadn't really thought about it," Mr. Wolf said. "Well, I have," she said. "I've had more than enough of wayside hostels and seedy village inns. I need a bath, a clean bed, and some decent food. If you don't mind, I'll choose our lodgings this time." "Of course, Paul," Wolf said mildly. "Whatever you say." "Very well then," she said, and rode on toward the city gate with the rest of them trailing behind her. "What's your business in Kamar?" one of the fur-mantled guards at the broad gate asked rather rudely. Aunt Pole threw back her hood and fixed the man with a steely gaze. "I am the Duchess of Arat," she announced in ringing tones. "These are my retainers, and my business in Kamar is my own affair." The guard blinked and then bowed respectfully. "Forgive me, Your Grace," he said. "I didn't intend to give offense." "Indeed?" Aunt Pole said, her tone still cold and her gaze still dangerous. "I didn't recognize Your Grace," the poor man floundered, squirming under that imperious stare. "May I offer any assistance?" "I hardly think so," Aunt Pole said, looking him up and down. "Which is the finest inn in Kamar?" "That would be the Lion, my lady." "And?" she said impatiently. "And what, my lady?" the man said, confused by her question. "Where is it?" she demanded. "Don't stand there gaping like a dolt. Speak up." "It lies beyond the customs house," the guard replied, flushing at her words. "Follow this street until you reach Customs Square. Anyone there can direct you to the Lion." Aunt Pole pulled her hood back up. "Give the fellow something," she said over her shoulder, and rode on into the city without a backward glance. "My thanks," the guard said, as Wolf leaned down to hand him a small coin. "I must admit that I haven't heard of the Duchess of Arat before." "You're a fortunate man," Wolf said. "She's a great beauty," the man said admiringly. "And she has a temper to match," Wolf told him. "I noticed that," the guard said. "We noticed you noticing," Silk told him slyly. They nudged their horses and caught up with Aunt Pole. "The Duchess of Arat?" Silk asked mildly. "The fellow's manner irritated me," Aunt Pole said loftily, "and I'm tired of putting on a poor face in front of strangers." At Customs Square, Silk accosted a busy-looking merchant trudging over the snow-covered paving. "You, fellow," he said in the most insulting way possible, pulling his horse directly in front of the startled merchant. "My mistress, the Duchess of Arat, requires directions to an inn called the Lion. Be so good as to provide them." The merchant blinked, his face flushing at the rat-faced man's tone. Up that street, he said softly, pointing. Some goodly way. It'll be on your left. There's a sign of the lion at the front. Silk sniffed ungraciously, tossed a few coins into the snow at the man's feet, and whirled his horse in a grand manner. The merchant, Garion noted, looked outraged. But he did grope in the snow for the coins Silk had thrown. I doubt that any of these people will quickly forget our passage, Wolf said sourly, when they were some ways up the street. They'll remember the passage of an arrogant noblewoman, Silk said. This is as good a disguise as any we've tried. You're watching true streams now. Multi-stream drifting, Kate? Oh my. When they arrived at the inn, Antpole commanded not just the usual sleeping chambers, but an entire apartment. My chamberlain there will pay you, she said to the innkeeper, indicating Mr. Wolf. You multi-stream too? That's very fair, Hannah. Also, hey, good to see you. Our baggage horses are some days behind with the rest of my servants, so I'll require the services of a dressmaker and a maid. See to it. And she turned and swept imperially up the long staircase that led to her apartment, following the servant who scurried ahead to show her the way. The Duchess has a commanding presence, doesn't she? The innkeeper ventured as Wolf began counting out coins. She has indeed, Wolf agreed. I've discovered the wisdom of not countering her wishes. I'll be guided by you then, the innkeeper assured him. My youngest daughter is a serviceable girl. I'll dispatch her to serve as her grace's maid. Many thanks, friend, Silk told him. Our lady becomes most irritable when those things she desires are delayed, and we're the ones who suffer the most from her displeasure. Neo decided to stream, can't leave your other favorite VTuber in chat left hanging. Fair enough, Kate. I'm just glad to have you here still. They trooped up the stairs to the apartments Antpole had taken and stepped into the main sitting room, a splendid chamber far richer than any Garion had ever seen before. The walls were covered by tapestries with intricate pictures woven into the fabric. A wealth of candles, real wax instead of smoky tallow, gleamed in sconces along the walls and in a massive candelabra on the polished table. A good warm fire danced merrily on the hearth, and a large carpet of curious design lay on the floor. Antpole was standing before the fire, warming her hands. Isn't this better than some shabby wharfside inn reeking of fish and unwashed sailors? She asked. Sketching my model while listening to me and sipping wine. That's... Oh. Well, thank you, Mushroom. That's a good evening, yeah. If the Duchess of Arat will forgive my saying so, Wolf said somewhat tartly, this is hardly the way to escape notice, and the cost of these lodgings would feed a legion for a week. Don't grow parsimonious in your dotage, old wolf, she replied. No one takes a spoiled noblewoman seriously, and your wagons weren't able to keep that disgusting Brill from finding us. This guise is at least comfortable, and it permits us to move more rapidly. Yeah, it has a blush on it. Husbando, hello, welcome back. I wish I understood what you were saying. Wolf grunted. I only hope we won't regret all this, he said. Stop grumbling, old man, she told him. Have it your way, Pole, he sighed. I intend to, she said. How are we to behave, Mistress Pole? Dernick asked hesitantly. Her sudden regal manner had obviously confused him. I'm not familiar with the ways of the gentry. I've said you've died like 3 times already, but this time... Glad you enjoy it. It's quite simple, Turnix, she said. She eyed him up and down, noting his plain, dependable face and his solid competence. How would you like to be the chief groom to the Duchess of Arat and master of her stables? Turnix laughed uncomfortably. Noble titles for work I've done all my life, he said. I could manage the work easily enough, but the titles might grow a bit heavy. You'll do splendidly, friend Turnix, Silk assured him. That honest face of yours makes people believe anything you choose to tell them. If I had a face like yours, I could steal half the world. Glad you enjoy, Mushroom. He turned to Aunt Pole. And what role am I to play, my lady? He asked. You'll be my reeve, she said. The thievery usually associated with the position should suit you. Silk bowed ironically. And I? Orax said, grinning openly. My man-at-arms, she said. I doubt that any would believe you would be a dancing master. Just stand around looking dangerous. What about me, Aunt Pole? Garion asked. What do I do? You can be my page. What does a page do? You fetch things for me. I've always done that. Is that what it's called? Hello there, Vicky Karai. Don't be impertinent. You also answer doors and announce visitors, and when I'm feeling melancholy, you may sing to me. Sing? He said incredulously. Me? It's customary. You wouldn't make me do that, would you, Aunt Pole? Your Grace, she corrected. You won't be very gracious if you have to listen to me sing, he warned. My voice isn't very good. You'll do just fine, dear, she said. This is a Brazilian name? Ah, well, hello. Hello to Brazil. Welcome in. I hope you enjoy your time here. And I've already been appointed your Grace's Chamberlain, Wolf said. My chief steward, she told him, manager of my estates and keeper of my purse. Somehow I knew that would be a part of it. There was a timid rap at the door. See who that is, Garion, Aunt Pole said. When he opened the door, Garion found a young girl with light brown hair in a sober dress and starched apron and cap standing outside. She had very large brown eyes that looked at him apprehensively. Yes? He asked. I've been sent to wait upon the Duchess, she said in a low voice. Your maid has arrived, Your Grace, Garion announced. Splendid, Aunt Pole said. Come in, child. The girl entered the room. What a pretty thing you are, Aunt Pole said. Thank you, my lady, the girl answered with a brief curtsy and a rosy blush. And what is your name? I am called Danya, my lady. A lovely name, Aunt Pole said. Now, 2 important matters. Is there a bath on the premises? Ah, Aunt Pole always loves her baths. What fun. It was still snowing the next morning. The roofs of nearby houses were piled high with white, and narrow streets were deep with it. I think we're close to the end of our search, Mr. Wolf said, as he stared intently out through the rippled glass of the window in the room with tapestries. Don't we all love a nice hot bath? Oh, yes. It's so nice and relaxing to just melt away in that nice hot water. To become soup. Baths are nice, you don't blame her. No one wants to be stinky. Very true. Very, very true. Human soup. Well, at least the cannibals would be happy. It's unlikely that the one we're after would stay in Kamar for long, Silk said. Very unlikely, Wolf agreed. But once we found his trail, we'll be able to move more rapidly. Let's go into the city and see if I'm right. After Mr. Wolf and Silk had left, Garion sat for a while talking with Danya, who seemed to be about his own age. Although she was not quite as pretty as Zubret, Garion found her soft voice and huge brown eyes extremely attractive. You like your water boiling you alive? You just go into the go into the boiling water like a hot dog, or do you let it rise up slowly from cold to hot like a frog? Yes, hot water. Perfect for tea. Oh wait, no cannibalism. You just jump right in. Damn. Oh me, I don't want to be a lobster. Things were going along well between them until Aunt Pole's dressmaker arrived and Danya's presence was required in the chamber where the Duchess of Arad was being fitted for her new gowns. Lava water? Lava water is best. Lobster you all day. What a sentence. That does remind me, though, of a trip quite a few years ago. Man, can I just say, I love hot springs. They're so relaxing, and it's interesting to go through the naturally occurring hot springs, you know? The volcano nearby going up the mountain. Rock lobster. The water boiling and steaming. It was just something so different about going to legitimate hot springs. Sure, the floor was a bit rocky and kind of weird on the feet, but I melted in those waters. It felt wonderful. You've never been to one, but they always look so nice? Oh yeah. For sure. You want to go to a hot springs? Take you to one? We'll go to one in time. Again, many plans for 2025, including some potential 3D shenanigans. We can definitely go visit some hot springs then. And now, back to the book. Since Dernick, obviously ill at ease in the luxurious surroundings of their chambers, had adjourned to the stables after breakfast, Garion was left in the company of the giant Barak, who worked patiently with a small stone, polishing a nick out of the edge of his sword, a memento of the skirmish in Muros. Meet and greet in the hot springs. I don't know about that one. No, we have a much better world for a meet and greet. That would be kind of cute, though. A read stream where I'm reading in VR. And you guys are just around in a circle, maybe around a campfire. Your iPad is dying, so you're taking it as a sign to give in to the eepiness? Very fair. When will I be live again? I tend not to stream on Saturdays, but I could always do a Saturday afternoon and play some games. And you can join me then. But I do like to do another stream for Sunday evening. We go again for sure. We don't have anything VR. Luckily, As long as you have a PC or even an Android phone at this point. Yep. VR chat happens to be completely free and perfectly accessible using mouse and keyboard. Or touch controls. There's a lot of cool things to see, and I would love to show you. And take you all on a grand adventure. Hey, Jam Jam. Garion had never been wholly comfortable with the huge, red-bearded man. Barak spoke rarely, and there seemed to be a kind of hulking menace about him. It sounds fantastic. You're off weekends? Sounds good, Galaxy Mushroom. I'll see you next time then. Sleep well. Next year's meet and greet is gonna be epic. Oh, it'll be interesting, that's for sure. So it was that Garion spent the morning examining the tapestries on the walls of the sitting room. The tapestries depicted knights in full armor and castles on hilltops and strangely angular-looking maidens moping about in gardens. Horrendish, Barak said directly behind him. Garion jumped. The huge man had moved up so quietly that Garion had not heard him. How can you tell? Garion asked politely. The Arens have a fondness for tapestry, Barak rumbled, and the weaving of pictures occupies their women, while the men are off denting each other's armor. Do they really wear all that? Garion asked, pointing at the heavily armored knight pictured on the tapestry. Oh yes, Barak laughed. That and more. Even their horses wear armor. It's a silly way to make war. Garion scuffed his shoe on the carpet. Is this Horrendish too? He asked. Barak shook his head. Malorian, he said. How did it get here, all the way from Meloria? Garion asked. I've heard that Meloria's all the way on the other side of the world. It's a goodly way off, Barak agreed, but a merchant would go twice as far to make a profit. Such goods as this commonly move along the North Caravan route out of Gar Og Nadrak to Boktor. Melorian carpets are prized by the wealthy. I don't care much for them myself, since I'm not fond of anything that has to do with the Angoraks. How many kinds of Angoraks are there? Garion asked. I know there are Murgos and Tholes, and I've heard stories about the Battle of Omimbre and all, but I don't know much about them really. There are 5 tribes of them, Barak said, sitting back down and resuming his polishing. Murgos and Tholes, the Draks and Melorians, and of course, the Grollems. They live in the 4 kingdoms of the east, Meloria, Gar Og Nadrak, Shrek Akthol, and Cathol Murgos. Where do the Grollems live? They have no special place, Barak replied grimly. The Grollems and the priests of Tarak One-Eye Grollems are the priests of Tarak One-Eye and are everywhere in the lands of the Angoraks. They are the ones who perform the sacrifices to Tarak. Grollem knives have spilled more Angorak blood than a dozen Vomimbres. Garion shuddered. Why would Tarak take such pleasure in the slaughter of his own people? He asked. Who can say? Barak shrugged. He is a twisted and evil god. Some believe that he was made mad when he used the Orb of Alder to crack the world, and the orb repaid him by burning out his eye and consuming his hand. How could the world be cracked? Garion asked. I've never understood that part of the story. The power of the Orb of Alder is such that it can accomplish anything, Barak told him. When Tarak raised it, the earth was split apart by its power, and the seas came in to drown the land. The story's very old, but I think that it's probably true. Where's the Orb of Alder now? Garion asked suddenly. Sheesh. Yeah. Good stuff here. Barak looked at him, and his eyes icy blue and his face thoughtful, but he didn't say anything. Do you know what I think? Garion said on a sudden impulse. I think it's the Orb of Alder that's been stolen. I think it's the orb that Mr. Wolf is trying to find. Hi, Wampus. Good to see you. And I think it's better if you didn't think so much about such things, Barak warned. But I want to know, Garion protested, his curiosity driving him even in the face of Barak's words and the warning voice in his mind. Everyone treats me like an ignorant boy. All I do is tag along with no idea of what we're doing. Who is Mr. Wolf anyway? Why did the Algars behave the way that they did when they saw him? How can he follow something that he can't see? Please tell me, Barak. Not me, Barak laughed. Your aunt would pull out my beard whisker by whisker if I made that mistake. You're not afraid of her, are you? Any man with good sense is afraid of her, Barak said, rising and sliding his sword into its sheath. Aunt Pole? Garion asked incredulously. Aren't you afraid of her? Barak said pointedly. No, Garion said, and then realized that that was not precisely true. You had a teacher named Mr. Wolf? No one really liked him, though. Ah, man, you'd think the people with cool names would be cool. Oh well, happens sometimes. Well, not really afraid. It's more, he left it hanging, not knowing how to explain it. Exactly, Barak said, and I'm no more foolhardy than you, my boy. You're too full of questions I'd be far wiser not to answer. If you want to know about these things, you'll have to ask your aunt. She won't tell me, Garion said glumly. She won't tell me anything. She won't even tell me about my parents. Not really. Barak frowned. That's strange, he said. I don't think they were Sendars, Garion said. Their names weren't Sendarian, and Silk says that I'm not a Sendar. At least, I don't look like one. Barak looked at him closely. No, he said finally. Now that you mention it, you don't. You look more like a Riven than anything else, but not quite that either. Is Aunt Pole a Riven? Barak's eyes narrowed slightly. Core. What is that sentence? Barak's eyes narrowed slightly. I think we're getting to some more of those questions I hadn't better answer, he said. I'm going to find out someday, Garion said. But not today, Barak said. Come along, I need some exercise. Let's go out into the inn yard and I'll teach you how to use a sword. Me? Garion said, all his curiosity suddenly melting away and the excitement of that thought. Literally, people would say that in class to Mr. Oh, that's funny. You're at an age where you should begin to learn, Barak said. The occasion may someday arise when it'll be a useful thing for you to know. Late that afternoon, when Garion's arm had begun to ache from the effort of swinging Barak's heavy sword, the whole idea of learning the skills of a warrior had become a great deal less exciting. Mr. Wolf and Silk returned. Another one no one liked was Mr. File. Clippy. Their clothes were wet from the snow through which they had trudged all day, but Wolf's eyes were bright, and his face had a curious exultant expression as he led them all back up the stairs to the sitting room. "Ask your aunt to join us," he told Garyon, as he removed his sodden mantle and stepped to the fire to warm himself. Garyon sensed quickly that this was not the time for questions. He hurried to the polished door where Aunt Pole had been closeted with her dressmaker all day and knocked. "What is it?" Her voice came from inside. That is, your chamberlain has returned, my lady," Garyon said, remembering at that last moment that she was not alone. "He requests a word with you." "Oh, very well," she said. After a minute, she came out, firmly closing the door behind her. Garyon gasped. The rich blue velvet gown she wore made her so magnificent that she quite took his breath away. She stared at her in helpless admiration. "Where is he?" she asked. "Don't stand and gape, Garyon. It's not polite." "You're beautiful, Aunt Pole," he blurted. "Yes, dear," she said, patting his cheek. "I know. Now, where's the old wolf?" "In the room with the tapestries," Garyon said, still unable to take his eyes from her. "Come along, then," she said, and swept down the short hall to the sitting room. They entered to find the others all standing by the fireplace. "Well?" she asked. Wolf looked up at her, his eyes still bright. "An excellent choice, Pole," he said admiringly. "Blue has always been your best color." "Do you like it?" she asked, holding out her arms and turning almost girlishly so that they all might see how fine she looked. "I hope it pleases you, old man, because it's costing you a great deal of money." Wolf laughed. "I was almost certain it would," he said. The effect of Aunt Pole's gown on Dernick was painfully obvious. The poor man's eyes literally bulged, and his face turned alternatively very pale and then very red, then finally settled into an expression of such hopelessness that Garyon was touched to the quick by it. Silk and Barak in curious unison both bowed deeply and wordlessly to Aunt Pole, and her eyes sparkled at their silent tribute. "It's been here," Wolf announced seriously. "You're certain?" Aunt Pole demanded. He nodded. "I could feel the memory of its passage in the very stones." "Did it come by sea?" she asked. "No. He probably came ashore with it in some secluded cove up the coast, and then traveled here by land." "And took ship again?" "I doubt that," Wolf said. "I know him well. He's not comfortable on the sea." "Besides which," Barak said, one word to King Anheg of Cherek would have put 100 warships on his trail. No one can hide on the sea from the ships of Cherek, and he knows that." "You're right," Wolf agreed. "I think he'll avoid the domains of the Alorns. That's probably why he chose not to pass along the north road through Algaria and Dresnia. The spirit of Belar is strong in the kingdoms of the Alorns, and not even this thief is bold enough to risk a confrontation with the bear god." "Which leaves Orendia," Silk said, "or the land of the Ulgos." "Orendia, I think," Wolf said. "The wrath of Ul is even more fearsome than that of Belar." Forgive me," Dernick said, his eyes still on Aunt Pole. "This is all most confusing. I've never heard just exactly who this thief is." "I'm sorry, gentle Dernick," Wolf said. "It's not a good idea to speak his name. He has certain powers which might make it possible for him to know our every move if we alert him to our location. And he can hear his name spoken 1,000 leagues away." "A sorcerer?" Dernick asked unbelievingly. "The word isn't one I'd choose," Wolf said. It's a term used by men who don't understand that particular art. Instead, let's call him Thief, though there are a few other names I might call him which are far less kindly. Can we be certain that he'll make for the kingdoms of the Angorax? Silk asked, frowning. If that's the case, wouldn't it be quicker to take a ship directly to Tolhoneth and pick up his trail along the south caravan route into Cathol Murgos? Wolf shook his head. Better to stay with this trail now that we've found it. We don't know what he intends. Maybe he wants to keep the thing he's stolen for himself, rather than deliver it over to the Grollems. He might even seek sanctuary in Nissa. He couldn't do that without the connivance of Salmistra, Antpol said. Oh man, the sleepies are coming? Excellent. Close those eyes. Listen to my voice. Get the soothing ambience. And rest. That's what we're here for, after all. It wouldn't be the first time that the Queen of the Serpent People has tampered with things that are none of her concern, Wolf pointed out. If that turns out to be true, Antpol said grimly, I think I'll give myself the leisure to deal with the Snake Woman permanently. It's too early to know, Wolf said. Tomorrow, we'll buy provisions and ferry across the river to Orendia. I'll take up the trail there. For the time being, all we can do is follow that trail. Once we know for certain where it leads, we'll be able to consider our alternatives. From the evening darkened innyard outside, there came suddenly the sound of many horses. Barak stepped out quickly to the window and glanced out. Soldiers, he said shortly. Here? Silk said, also hurrying to the window. They appear to be from one of the king's regiments, Barak said. They won't be interested in us, Antpol said. Unless they aren't what they seem, Silk said. Uniforms of one kind or another aren't that difficult to come by. They aren't Murgos, Barak said. I'd recognize Murgos. Brill isn't a Murgo either, Silk said, staring down into the inn-yard. See if you can hear what they say, Wolf instructed. Barak carefully opened one of the windows a crack, and the candles all flickered in the gust of icy wind. In the yard below, the captain of the soldiers was speaking with the innkeeper. He's a man of somewhat more than medium height, with white hair and a short white beard. He may be traveling with some others. There's such a one here, Your Honor, the innkeeper said dubiously, but I'm sure he isn't the one you seek. This one is chief steward to the Duchess of Arat, who honors my inn with her presence. The Duchess of where? The captain asked sharply. Of Arat, the innkeeper replied, a most noble lady of great beauty and a commanding presence. I wonder if I might have a word with her grace, the captain said, climbing down from his horse. I'll ask her if she'll receive your honor, the innkeeper replied. Barak closed the window. I'll deal with this meddlesome captain, he said firmly. No, Wolf said. He's got too many soldiers with him, and if they're who they seem to be, they're good men who haven't done us any harm. There's the back stairs, Silk suggested. We could be 3 streets away before he reached our door. And if he stationed soldiers at the back of the inn? Antpol suggested. What then? Since he's coming to speak with the Duchess of Arat, why don't we let the Duchess deal with him? What have you got in mind? Wolf asked. If the rest of you stay out of sight, I'll speak with him, she said. I should be able to put him off until morning. We can be across the river into Orendia before he comes back. Perhaps, Wolf said, but this captain sounds like a determined man. I've dealt with determined men before, she said. We'll have to decide quickly, Silk said from the door. He's on the stairs right now. We'll try it your way, Pole, Wolf said. opening the door to the next chamber. "Garion," Antpol said, "you stay here. A duchess wouldn't be unattended." Wolf and the others quickly left the room. "What do you want me to do, Antpol?" Garion whispered. "Just remember that you are my page, dear," she said, seating herself in the large chair near the center of the room and carefully arranging the folds of her gown. "Stand near my chair and try to look attentive. I'll take care of the rest." "Yes, my lady," Garion said. The captain, when he arrived behind the innkeeper's knock, proved to be a tall, sober-looking man with penetrating gray eyes. Garion, trying his best to sound officious, requested the soldier's name and then turned to Antpol. "There's a Captain Brendig to see you, Your Grace," he announced. "He says that it's a matter of importance." Antpol looked at him for a moment as if considering the request. "Oh, very well," she said finally. "Show him in." Captain Brendig stepped into the room, and the innkeeper left hurriedly. "Your Grace," the captain said, bowing deferentially to Antpol. "What is it, Captain?" she demanded. "I would not trouble your grace if my mission were not of such urgency," Brendig apologized. "My orders are directly from the king himself, and you of all people will know that we must defer to his wishes." "I suppose I can spare you a few moments for the king's business," she said. "There's a certain man the king wishes to have apprehended," Brendig said. "An elderly man with white hair and beard. I'm informed that you have such a one among your servants." "Is the man a criminal?" she asked. "The king didn't say so, your grace," he told her. "I was only told that the man was to be seized and delivered to the palace at Sendar, and all who are with him as well." "I am seldom at court," Antpol said. "It's most unlikely that any of my servants would be of such interest to the king." "Your Grace," Brendig said delicately, "in addition to my duties in one of the king's own regiments, I also have the honor to hold a baronetcy. I've been at court all my life, and I must confess that I've never seen you there. A lady of your striking appearance would not soon be forgotten." You heard captain and immediately thought of Odysseus' fleets that got dunked in the water by Poseidon. Very fair. Antpol inclined her head slightly in acknowledgement of the compliment. "I suppose I should have guessed, my Lord Brendig," she said. "Your manners are not those of a common soldier." "Moreover, your grace," he continued, "I'm familiar with all the holdings of the kingdom. If I'm not mistaken, the district of Arat is an earldom, and the Earl of Arat is a short, stout man. My great-uncle, incidentally. There has been no duchy in that part of Sindaria since the kingdom was under the dominion of the Westside Arens." Antpol fixed him with an icy stare. "My lady," Brendig said almost apologetically, "the Westside Arens were exterminated by their Asturian cousins in the last years of the 3rd millennium. There has been no Westside nobility for over 2,000 years. "I thank you for the history lesson, my lord," Antpol said coldly. "All of that, however, is hardly the issue, is it?" Brendig continued. "I am bidden by my king to seek out the man of whom I spoke. Upon your honor, lady, do you know such a man?" The question hung in the air between them, and Garion, knowing in sudden panic that they were caught, almost shouted for Barak. Then, the door to the next chamber opened, and Mr. Wolf stepped into the room. "There's no need to continue with this," he said. "I'm the one you're looking for. What does full rack of Sindaria want with me?" Brendig looked at him without seeming surprise. His Majesty did not see fit to take me into his confidence, he said. He will explain it himself. I have no reason to doubt, as soon as we reach the palace at Sendar. The sooner the better then, Wolf said. When do we leave? We depart for Sendar directly after breakfast in the morning, Brendig said. I will accept your word that none of you will attempt to leave this inn during the night. I'd prefer not to subject the Duchess of Arat to the indignity of confinement at the local barracks. The cells there are most uncomfortable, I'm told. You have my word, Mr. Wolf said. Thank you, Brendig said, bowing slightly. I must also advise you that I am obliged to post guards about this inn, for your protection, of course. Your solicitude overwhelms us, my lord, Aunt Pole said dryly. Your servant, my lady, Brendig said with a formal bow, and then he turned and left the room. The polished door was only wood. Gary knew that, but as it closed behind the departing Brendig, it seemed to have that dreadful, final clang of the door to a dungeon. And that is the end of Chapter 10 of The Pawn of Prophecy. Ooh, what a read. I do have to say, I thought I had more energy, but I do feel a little tired. So I think that will be where we end it for tonight. I hope you all enjoyed and had a good time. And again, thank you for all of those who followed and for everyone on YouTube for getting me to, let's see, what's that at now? Let me check. 103. Holy crap. So very, very unexpected. But definitely appreciated. So, Core, I know that you were asking for some normal ASMR, the tingly kind. You too, Kate. So I think, let's see. Let me see who I can send you all towards. They seem nice. So everyone, you all have yourselves a wonderful night, and I'll catch you all either tomorrow or on Sunday. Rest easy.